I'm going to tell you right now, I don't really understand how the economy works. But what I do know is that it doesn't often work for me, and presumably not for you either. At least that's how it is where I live, in the Venn diagram center of the most famous imagined dystopias. I always like playing games when things suck. Not the gameplay itself, but the circumstances. Outward is the perfect example of this. I remember playing this game with my best pal and just getting absolutely crushed by everything. Beaten and robbed of all of our belongings, barely getting by on whatever scraps we could get our hands on, just for the game to introduce some new kind of horror that sets you back again. Now, I'm sure a lot of people don't feel that way, and that's fine. But the most fulfilling thing in life, to me at least, is progress. And progress is only valuable because it's difficult. Anyways, one vector to make things as bad as real life that doesn't get explored much is the economy. You found a reliable way to make money farming goblins for their, for some reason, valuable feet. What happens when the tow market collapses and now you're just some psycho walking around with a backpack full of hooves? What happens if a state makes the possession of greenskin stompers illegal? Does the price go up? Does a black market form? Are there new jobs smuggling sweet leg tips into the city walls? These are some ideas I'd like to explore, but we're pretty far off considering we don't even have trade at all, so let's fix that. Now, the Tetris-style inventory system I wrote was one of the first things I implemented when I was prototyping this game, and looking back on it now, the only explanation for its current state is that I must have been blackout drunk when I made it, because it is a complete mess. So I started by refactoring the inventory, which came with a number of issues. I've written an inventory like this 3 times in my life, and let me tell you, I don't care how good you are at programming, it will not work right the first time. It didn't work right when I wrote it in college, it didn't work right when I wrote it 3 years out of college, and it didn't work right when I wrote it the first time again last week. But eventually, I hammered it out with slick new code, and we were right back to where we started. Right on. But now, the UI inventory isn't coupled to the player, so any inventory can be represented by the UI. This means we can finally ditch having items explode everywhere when we open containers, and can instead open them to see what's inside and just take what we need. The reusability works for the trade dialogue too. Now we can open a dialogue with a shopkeeper and populate it with any items in their inventory. For now, every item here is just in the shopkeeper's bag, but later I plan to have it fill the containers within the building, so anything you see for sale could be stolen. Of course, we need currency to trade. I considered having different currencies for each faction, but I ultimately decided that was an aspect of games that sucked because it was annoying, which is not the type of sucking I like. Am I right, fellas? My opinion on that might change. We'll see, but for now, I created a little gold coin item and then wrote some code to let items stack. You can split the stack with a right click too and toss them all over the ground if you'd like. There isn't a coin world sprite yet though. Now that we have gold coins, we have to derive a value for each of our items. Since items are all made of a certain material like copper, bronze, or iron, we can give a value multiplier to each material. Then we formulate a base value for the item from its rarity and type and multiply that by the material it's made from. Currency will work no differently, minus the rarity. This way we can affect the economy in the future by adjusting the value of certain materials by how sought after they are within a region. Now we can predicate removing items from a shopkeeper's inventory with a cost restriction, and just like that we have trading. It works the same way in the inverse, with the shopkeeper requiring money to sell items to them. If the requirement isn't met, the item is rubber banded back to its originating position. I'd like to expand on this eventually with an in-term dialogue and maybe an option to haggle with the shopkeeper, but this is enough to get started on an economy. Anyway, with all this in place, it'll just be a hop, skip, and a jump to adding thievery. I'll see you all again when that happens, and go to the video description to follow me on my socials, if you want. Peace out, everybody.